Hello, it's Dr. Jimmy again. Oh, you can't see me. What's my hair doing, silly thing? Or where am I? Am I there? Ooh, I am there. Ooh, damn, that's scary. And today's t-shirt is E.T. E.T. Way down here you get the little silhouette of the moon in the Elliot riding on the bicycle from, yes, Universal Studios. E.T. Adventure, the only one of the attractions from opening day that remains still at the studios. But for how much longer? Oh dear, I hope it stays. Hope it does. Well, it's a lovely Saturday afternoon, the 28th of July 2018. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get our next big reveal for Halloween Horror Nights 28, which is now less than 7 weeks away. Oh my! Yes, 6 weeks and 6 days to Horror Nights. What fun. And drum roll, please. I don't have any drums, so what the hell. This is at last part 12 in my series on the history of Halloween Horror Nights 25, the event that was held at Universal Orlando Resort, specifically Universal Studios Florida, in 2015. And I went back to take a look, and I'm quite shocked by this. I didn't realize I started the history of Halloween Horror Nights 25 March 2017. March, I think 15th or something, the Ides of March, yeah. And it's been like a year and nearly 5 months, and almost a year and 5 months since I started that, and I've only got to part 12. In fact, the last one I did, part 11, was done on November 17th or something like that last year. So it's been, what, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 8 months since I've done the video. Is someone coming in? No. Don't like being interrupted. So it's been like 8 months since I made the last one. My goodness, it's taken me a long time to get through 25. And I think part of it is what I have to talk about next. But I'm back now. Gonna do the video. Yes. And in the previous, if you remember the last 11 videos, if you could possibly remember that long, sometime before you were born when I made those videos, ancient history, dig them up with archaeologists, oh, we found it. And you can see, yes, they were hidden in the black sarcophagus. Opened that black sarcophagus the other day. Now, when they looked, if you remember the first 11 videos, I managed to cover the first 7 houses of Halloween Horror Nights 25, which were Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, and American Werewolf in London. Coming back for a second go, there was Body Collectors, Recollections, and Freddy vs. Jason. Those were all in the sound stages. Then over in the Disaster Overflow queue area was Run, Blood, Sweat and Fears, the last house for that area. And then when the Sprung Tents, the World Expo warehouses or Sprung Tents, there was Insidious and The Purge, which was supposed to be Scream, but it ended up being The Purge. And those were the first 7 houses that I talked about in the last 11 videos in this series on Halloween Horror Nights 25. This is the first one I'm making this year for this history. My God, it took me till July to make this video. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. But here it is. So now we come to the 8th house. And the 8th house was probably the least interesting house, even less interesting than American Werewolf in London, coming back for a second time in almost the exact same house with a couple of interesting bits, but mostly the same house. I found it even less interesting than that. So maybe that's why I've been dragging my feet, because I just didn't want to talk about it, because it's, not really all that good. That could be, I don't know. But when they announced this house, when they announced it, it was like this huge outcry this massive, overwhelming proclamation of being underwhelmed. It was like this great, resounding meh. You could hear it from Kissimmee to Castleberry. Meh, like a huge flock of goats had got loose. Meh, meh, meh. Oh my goodness. People just were disappointed. And what? Why was the response? And what was it all about? Well, of course you know, I think, because it was announced that The Walking Dead would come back for another haunted house in Orlando, the 4th consecutive year in a row, and the 4th consecutive Walking Dead haunted house. And it was like people some why? We've had Walking Dead 3 years in a row. Why do we need another one now? And it's like some people were a bit abusive, going, they've run out of ideas, they should all be fired. No, of course they didn't run out of ideas. It wasn't something that they wanted to do. I'm certain that all the lovely people at Art and Design would have gladly done something else, but little bean counters up in corporate offices in California or someplace say, oh, Walking Dead is such a very successful television program, it gets such high ratings, and all the Walking Dead shows, the stuff we did the last 3 years was very successful, and all the regular guests liked it and gave high ratings, and so yeah, we got to do another one, yeah. And so they forced it on them, and you could kind of tell that they were getting tired of it themselves in some ways, especially when they called the thing. They didn't come up with a snappy, clever title. They just called it The Walking Dead, The Living and the Dead. Which is like, okay. Especially since we never get to see the living in these haunted houses. And that's part of the problem with the Walking Dead haunted houses. I think I mentioned it once or twice before, but part of the problem with all the Walking Dead they ever did in Orlando, and I think in Hollywood also, is you don't get to see the living, you only get to see the dead. Whatever contract they had with AMC to make these haunted houses, it's like they couldn't use those interesting people who are characters in the show. I mean, what made The Walking Dead a program people tended to go back and see were the characters. People like Rick and Daryl and Michonne and Carol and, yeah, Carl. Yeah, whose dumb idea was to kill him off anyway? It's just, and the bad guys like the governor back then, and and of course Negan later on. But we're talking about 2015, so Negan hadn't shown up on the show yet. But basically, these sorts of characters made it interesting. So the soap opera bits were more interesting than just because zombies, they tend to be not very inventive as far as doing new stuff every week. Pretty much it's just eat you now. They basically sort of lurch about and eat your flesh. They kind of only have that one thing. That the shtick is fairly limited. They're one that sort of. They don't have a lot of talent range. They can't be singing and performing and tap dancing. They don't do all the different. They just do the lurching, walking, biting, eating. That's about it for them. Maybe at the best that they might do some rotting and decaying and decomposing. That's about all they're good for. So they're not the most inventive characters to work with, but they're the only ones they got to have in the houses, and that's what they were forced to do, scene after scene of zombies, trying to show them more creatively, trying to evoke the other characters, with props and scenes, but just more zombies, and that's all they were able to do. Now, if you recall, in 2014, the year before, when they announced the 3rd Walking Dead house, People were already fed up because they just had 2 years in a row. In 2013, all the scare zones had been Walking Dead too. And it was like, damn, what, a third? Why? The same sort of thing. So the lovely gentleman, Mike Coaiello, the showrunner, the creative director, took it upon himself to do some damage control and got onto the forums like Horror Night Nightmares, I think, and Facebook forums. Where fans, the hardcore fans of Horror Nights would get together to talk about it all year round, and started posting stuff to reassure us all. You know, oh, you guys have so much passion. Yeah, and I love your passion for this, and I know how you feel. And I just want to reassure you that it's still going to be awesome. And yeah, the house is going to be the biggest one ever in Soundstage 24. And it's going to actually spill out on both sides. And both the exit and entrance area went on to hype it up. And a lot of people, okay, that sounds good. And sure enough, actually, at Halloween Horror Nights 24, it was a good house. In fact, the one that they started with in 2012, Dead Inside, that was a good haunted house. It wasn't bad. It was the first Walking Dead house, and it was pretty cool. It's a little one in the disaster and Q area, and they had a scare in there that got me. I remember that, yeah. And in 2013, the second Walking Dead house was No Safe Haven, was bigger and better. And everyone agreed, yeah, this is better than last year's Walking Dead house, even though they're doing it again. It's bigger and better. It's not bad. 2014, a lot of it, but when the house happened, it was huge and it was amazing and had all kinds of neat stuff. Okay, it was better than the 2 previous ones. So every year they upped the ante, and every year the houses got better. And so, in 2015, might come back again on the forums to reassure us when they announced the 4th one. And people are going, meh, meh, meh. And he says, hey guys, hey, remember, last year's house wasn't so bad. This one is going to be amazing. And you wait till you hear what we're doing. Underwater zombies. Huh? Underwater zombies. And people going, whoa, underwater zombies? That's new. Yeah, a bit of Doctor Who there. That's different. Huh. Maybe we should give it a try. Underwater zombies. Hey, let's check it out. So, yeah, we're going to check out the underwater zombies. And I myself, I tend to be optimistic. And I said, well, you know, last 3 ones each year got better. You know, the first one, second one was better, third one was even better. So maybe this 4th one will be the best of the lot. Maybe it'll be even better than all 3 of them. And I was getting my hopes up. Like a happy puppy waiting for a treat. Oh, goody. Trying to get my hopes up. Oh, boy. This time, though, it wasn't. No. It wasn't. I'm sorry. This was the worst of all the Walking Dead houses. All 3 of the previous ones, even the one they did the year afterwards, was better than this one. This one, 2016 one was better even. 2015 Walking Dead houses are at bottom. It's one of the worst houses in recent years. I'm not, and it isn't bad. If it had been the only Walking Dead house, it might have been a pretty good house, but it just left me going, and I wouldn't call it, stinker or anything, but it just definitely was the least interesting house of the entire event. And of course, there were some spectacular houses that year, but still, I just couldn't get into it. The Walking Dead, the Living and the Dead. Oh dear. And so it was in Building 79, the Parade Warehouse, backstage behind the kids zone area of the park. So you had to take that long walk down. Back then, of course, you went through kids zone and you went back behind Curious George and took that little trek out to the back entrance of the parade building, and you go up in there. And when you got there, they didn't have much of a facade or anything. There were some tanks, like some sort of gas tanks or something on one side, and there's some fencing and some pipes. I don't know. Maybe it was meant to be stuff outside Terminus. I don't know. I didn't quite get it. There was usually one zombie lurching about outside. And when you go in, the whole thing was of course based on the 5th series of the program, season 5, which of course aired from October, I think, of 2014 till the spring of 2015. So the most recently aired season of the program, or series if you're in the UK. Anyway, but the program, The Walking Dead. So it starts in Terminus, right, and then covers some of the events of that particular season. So you're in Terminus when you first go in, and that's one of the better scenes. They've got one of the cannibalistic butchers of Terminus, and he's got some. Of course, none of them are recognizable as Rick or Glenn or anybody. They're just 3 random victims, and one of them I think is a mannequin, at least. And he's there, and he grabs the guy by the head, pulls it back, slits her throat with a machete. Another throat-slitting scene. As people have pointed out, there were throat-slitting sequences all around Horror Nights in 2015, and I don't know. I even suggested a drinking game every time you see because after a few of the every time you see one, you take a shot. And then you say things like a slope getting threat, because you're getting freaking drunk by a girl. Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, after that, and of course they did it quite lovely, because there's a big spray of fluid that gets it's not blood though, it's just water. But, it splashes out when he gets his throat slit at the trough there, just like in the program. And I don't even remember all the scenes very well, because it's sort of just, maybe my brain has to not, just sort of drop them. But it seems there are a couple of Terminus scenes after that, not much. Then the big scene, you go into, I think it was some sort of community food pantry area, and of course this is where the underwater zombies are, that were so highly touted. And oh dear. In the program, of course, they fall through the floor, and it's sort of a cellar that's flooded, and the zombies floating about from underwater. But oh dear, it was not just disappointing, but it looked rather embarrassing for the poor zombies. They were all wet. I mean, they're like in wading pools, like that's what it looked like. 2 or 3 kids' wading pools had been set up, and you walked in between them, right? And the zombies, who are the scare actors, are sort of standing there in the water looking just forlorn, like, I have to stand in the water and I'm getting wet and I'm supposed to scare you, but I'm wet and I'm getting pruny and there's shrinkage happening down there and it's cold and I'm wet and boo, I'm a zombie, scare you. Oh, drippy, drippy, drippy. And that's what it was like. It was just rather disappointing. They couldn't go under the water and bob out, and obviously they were concerned about their safety, and I think they're only allowed to be in there for a little bit, and then they would leave and be replaced. Of course, they have certain shifts for the cast, but I think they might have even had shorter periods than others because they didn't want them to stay in the water too long. And I'm sure they had like rubber things on down there, but whatever it was just disappointing. And they couldn't just have water that would get stagnant and start to smell bad after a few days. No, they had to. There was some sort of chlorine involved, so it smelled like a damn swimming pool, not like the water you'd have in the underground underneath the, it should have smelled like death, and instead it smelled like, you go down to the community pool or something. It's just kind of silly. And if you bothered to look up, which I never did, thank God, it would have totally taken you out, fourth wall broken completely, because if you looked up, you would have seen the lifeguard they put up there just in case the poor zombie started drowning. Of course, it wasn't even waist-deep water, but I suppose it's possible they're wearing masks and makeup, that if they tripped and fell and hit their head, they might have needed some rescuing. So there was a lifeguard up on a platform above that was there to rescue any drowning zombies, which really would have blown the whole thing, you know, destroyed any illusion whatsoever. So that was, again, a bit disappointing scene. And you know, and I had tried to hype it, and I guess on paper when they planned it out, it might have sounded really fun. But when they actually tried to, in practicality and the actual attempt to do it for real, it just didn't come out as good as it was on paper. So I'm trying to remember what all was next. It seems to me you went through the woods at one point, yes, and there's the church, Father Gabriel's church, where they find Father Gabriel. And so you don't really see the priest. Of course, the characters aren't just zombies, but you see the church there. I think it was St. Albans or something like that. It's an English saint. I don't know why there'd be a St. Albans. And, I guess he's an Episcopal priest, but it's a very English saint. It's like the first English martyr was St. Alban. There's a St. Albans church, and it's a forest, and there's zombies popping out. And then I think you go through a bit of a barn where there's like a storm effect going on and some blowing wind. And more zombies, of course, and then you're out in the woods again, and this is where there was something which I swear to God must have been an inside joke. I think some chaps at Art and Design said, you know, we have to do this, it's contractual, we don't really want to, and they put a joke in there to show how they really felt, because as you come along, there's the corpse of a horse, and there's a zombie on top of it, biting it, but also sometimes smacking that horse as he's biting. Literally beating a dead horse. I mean, a visual pun metaphor for what this was. Here we are, beating a dead horse. Oh, geez. Okay. Then after that, we went to the bit of the 5th season where they go to Atlanta and they have that whole conflict with a bunch of rogue cops, and Beth had been kidnapped and they had to rescue her and all of that. And this is represented merely by having a corridor where there's a cop with a motorcycle helmet and he like shoots at you, and then there's zombies, and then there's a broken revolving door. If you remember, someone got caught in the, I think, was it Bob? Somebody got killed and bitten in the revolving door, or killed. And you go through and there's a zombie there. So that was kind of clever as you go through, because the door doesn't actually revolve, but as you try to go through that, you have to go through it. And at first you didn't realize you had to go through the door, so you're going through that cramped space, and there's a zombie in another part of it, because, you know, the revolving door has four you know, quadrants. And so you're going through the part that you're able to go through, and the zombie's on the other part, and you think he can't get you, but actually he can come right around and get you pretty good. And some more, you know, zombie scares after that. And then it gets into the bit about the wolves. If you remember, they introduced this band of miscreants called the wolves, who caught zombies and cut something off, put W's on their foreheads and sick zombies at you. As a zombie bomb in the back of a truck or a big container truck. And they didn't really do much with those characters, except they killed off Tyrese. But then once, you know, he got bitten when he went to the little town, the abandoned town. But then after that whole bit where Tyrese was bitten, I'm not even sure which season that was, 5 or 6. But the wolves were involved with the W's on the zombie foreheads, and then they disappeared, and they didn't come back, because it was all about Negan and the Saviors after that, and no one really cared about those wolves anymore, and they sort of just disappeared. The fuck. Anyway, but they did have that here, and of course they used to capture these zombies and brand them with their W, and then they unleash them on people when they wanted to, you know, raid them after the zombies got them and steal their stuff or something like that. And they would try to control the zombies through music, because zombies are attracted to noise, and they would play loud music on big, you know, like on boom boxes and shit. So in the last scene, when you go through the container with these zombies, music is booming through these last couple of scenes, and the zombies are lurching after you. But sometimes the character would dance a little bit, maybe because he's bored, especially near the end of the shift. I don't think they're allowed to. And very often, guests would start grooving. And the song that played through there, I don't remember the name of the band, but there was a sort of dance, dance type music, disco. We used to call it back in the day, but they have different, different names for every type. But it's dance music. You can call it, electronica or high energy or whatever you want. But I can't remember the band off the top of my head. But the song was about, has the lyric, you unfriended me on Facebook, now you have to die. Something like that. But a hysterical lyric, which is actually spoken, but this, I think you probably know the song I mean. And it's quite funny, and it made for a good little zombie dance break on the way out of the house, which was, for me, the most enjoyable part of the house, was exiting. Not just to get out of the house, but to dance a little bit with the zombies, with the music playing as you went out. I did go through the house a few times. I'm not the sort to give up. And when I go back over and over, I try to hit all the houses at least once a night if I can, and there's something's going on. So I did go to the house many times, and sometimes I was really anticipating the end of the house because that was the fun part for me. So, wrapped up The Walking Dead, Living and the Dead. I probably left shit out, but I don't care. That was what I remember most clearly, and that's probably all that matters. So, that's 8 haunted houses. But that wasn't it. Oh no. 2015 was the year that the whole thing went up to 9 haunted houses. So there was one more house in a new area that had never been used for haunted houses until 2015. The Shrek Secondary Theatre. And the house was called Asylum in Wonderland 3D. Yes, but I'll get to that in part 13, because I just saw someone pull up, and so I have to stop this now. So that'll be next time, whenever that might be. Hopefully not too long. Hopefully it won't be sometime next year.